Okay, we're going to now work on how to go from fraction to decimal to percent. And I actually have this chart set up in this way. There's a reason I don't have like percent here and fraction here and decimal, or I have them in this order because it helps us understand that you can go in one step from fraction to decimal, and you can go in one step from decimal to percent. But if you want to go from percent to fraction or from fraction to percent, it takes 2 steps. It's 2 steps away. So that's why I set the chart up like this, so that you could be reminded of that it takes 2 steps. You can't just go from fraction to percent or percent to fraction, just boom, like that. You've got to turn them into decimals first, and then you can turn them into the other version. And then in this box, I'm illustrating how do you get from one place to another. So if you want to go from fraction to decimal, you're going to do the division that the problem's asking. So like if I have 3/5, that means 3 divided by 5, and you'd put that in your calculator. Or if you had, let's say 1/4 was your fraction, so in your calculator you would put in 1 divided by 4. And that would come out to 0.25. And then if you wanted to change that decimal into percent, you would move the decimal in this direction, because you're going towards the percent. You're going to move your decimal that way. And really what you're doing is you're giving it 100. So the mathematical thought is you're multiplying by 100. And that will cause your decimal to move 2 places to the right. So that's the same as saying 25%, because we moved the decimal 2 steps to the right. Notice 100 has 2 zeros on it. Anytime you multiply any number times 100, it will give it 2 more places to the right. If you do 5 times 100, then it's a 5 with 2 zeros, 500, that sort of thing. If you want to go the other way, if you want to start with, let's say, 16%, then you're going to move the decimal to the left. You're moving to the left across the chart, and you want to move it 2 places to the left, and that's pulling the 100 off, removing it, so you're basically mathematically dividing by 100. And so that's how you end up with 0.16. Then if you want to go from decimal to fraction, you write what you would say out loud. Like if I read this out loud, it is 1600ths. And so you write what you see, you write that number, 16, and then your denominator is the place value that your number ended in. So hundredths, 1600ths. And then, of course, you would simplify it if you can. Both of those can be divided by 4, so we'll call it 4/25. All right, so that's how we're going to do each of these. So we start down here, we have 3/5. I want to turn it into a decimal. And if you want to, you could pause the video right now and you could try and do each of these based on what I showed you up here. That's up to you. All right, so 3/5 is 3 divided by 5. And so when you do that, you should get 0.6 on your calculator. And now we want to move the decimal 2 places to the right, take it times 100, and that would give us 60%, because 0.6 could be written as 0.60 if we needed to, and it would mean the same thing. And so when you move that decimal 2 places to the right, there's your decimal, and then fill in any blank spots with the 0. Now, for the next problem, 5/8, it's 5 divided by 8. And that comes up to 0.625. which makes sense because 5 is more than half of 8. If it was 4/8, we'd expect it to be 0.5 or 50%. So we need this to be bigger. All right, and then if we move the decimal 2 places or multiply it by 100, either method is fine, we get 62.5%. If we start with a decimal, if we have to turn it into a percent, again, just move that decimal 2 places. So this one is 270%. And if we're trying to go to the fraction part, well, it's 2 and 7, and then name the last place value, 7/10. So when I write it over here, it's going to be 2 and 7/10. See how what you say out loud is the same for both numbers? If I read this, it'd be 2 and 7/10, and this is 2 and 7/10. This one, to turn it into a fraction, it's 31 and 3, and then the place value is hundredths. We can't reduce that. If we turn it into a percent, we're moving it over 2 places, so that's 3,103%. If we're turning 14.2% into a decimal, we're going to move that decimal 2 places, so it's 0.142. And then when we turn it into a fraction, it's 142. And then the denominator is the last place value. In this case, it's 1,000. And then we would want to try and reduce this. I know it can be, let's see, if I divide everything by 2, it gives me 71/500. Because I divided this by 2 and I divided this by 2. When you want to reduce a fraction, you have to use the same number on both the top and the bottom to divide with. 216%, moving the decimal, because it's currently right here, it's invisible, but it was sitting right here, 2 places, so that gives us 2.16. And then to write it as a fraction, the whole number is 2. Did you notice that pattern? If the whole number became the whole number here, the whole number here became the whole number here. So it was just the decimal part that became the fraction part. And then we have 16 over the place value of 100. And then we want to reduce this 16 over 100. They both can be divided by 4. So it gives us 2 and 4/25.